Tonight, NBC5 has obtained a copy of the manuscript of Carolyn Bryant Dunham's memoir. She is the white woman that 14-year-old Emmett Till whistled at in Mississippi. Her husband later confessed to his murder. NBC5's Marion Brooks reports.
The manuscript, entitled "I Am More Than a Wolf Whistle," was to be kept in a university archive until the 2030s, but it began to surface in the last few days, and we obtained a copy today. In it, Carolyn Bryant Dunham basically sticks to her story. In August of 1955, Carolyn Bryant was 21 years old. In her telling in the unreleased manuscript of her memoir, Emmett Till did whistle at her, but only after grabbing her hand and waist and propositioning her in the store in Money, Mississippi, much like she testified in court in September 1955, shown here in a reenactment of the trial transcript produced by NBC Chicago and Collaboration Theater.
What did he do?
He caught my hand.
Will you show the court just how he grasped your hand?
It was like this.
Was that a strong grip or a loose grip?
Strong grip.
What did he say when he grabbed your hand?
He said, "How about a date, baby?"
Carolyn Bryant Dunham set off the case in August 1955 by accusing the 14-year-old Till of making improper advances at a store in Mississippi.
Right now, she is in her 80s and most recently known to live right here in North Carolina. Several people are wondering what this recent discovery of the old warrant means, so let's dig deeper with the legal experts.
We're joined live by Jason Keith with Keith and Associates. So Jason, the Till family wants law enforcement to serve Miss Carolyn Bryant Dunham with the current warrant. Could this actually happen?
Actually, it actually can happen. The warrant was actually issued in Mississippi. And assuming that the warrant hasn't been dissolved and that it's still active, the warrant actually should and could be served by North Carolina law enforcement officers.
So there's not a statute of limitation on that case then?
Mississippi law governs, but for the most part, generally no. Stale warrants are usually served. They usually stay alive until they're actually served on the individual in the cases. And
what would that process look like? I mean, could North Carolina initiate it since she's here, or would it have to come out of Mississippi?
So what would generally happen is Mississippi would send a warrant to North Carolina. North Carolina would respond by issuing a warrant on behalf of Mississippi upon Ms. Dunham, because Mississippi is the actual issuing state that actually wants Ms. Dunham to actually report back and potentially be held accountable for crimes.
So a lot of people are talking about this. Is there any notable civil rights case in which someone was brought up on charges that happened 70 plus years ago?
Well, in terms of civil rights, there are, but more specifically, it's not uncommon. I mean, you can think about Holocaust cases, and you can think about other cases where there are older cases, there are older crimes, and new evidence has resurfaced, or the original warrants were never actually served on individuals. So it's not uncommon. Old cases that potentially they never were actually brought to trial for have actually been tried, and warrants have actually been served on individuals in the recent years. So it's pretty common, actually.
So lots of people on social media I've seen have been saying, who do we need to reach out to and lobby to get them to actually do this?
Good question.
Well, keep applying pressure to the legislature and the people and the officials in Mississippi. North Carolina is not going to actually respond to a warrant or execution of a warrant unless Mississippi asks them to. If the warrant is still alive, it hasn't been dissolved, it's still, if the warrant is still there, they can just ask law enforcement officers in North Carolina to serve it, and they will actually serve Ms. Dunham and potentially have her arrested.
Well, lots of interesting perspective, and we're so lucky to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Advocates searching for answers in this case have been doing two major things this week. The first, looking for the last living suspect in this investigation, Carolyn Bryant Dunham. And second, urging the district attorney to go ahead and serve this arrest warrant. The family's goal is to have Dunham defend herself in trial, so they need the Greenwood defense attorney to serve the arrest warrant to have a grand jury see the case.
We want her to at least come and defend herself, and not the state of Mississippi or the federal government. We feel that the federal government and the state is protecting Carolyn.
The family says they have other evidence and another witness in the nearly 67-year-old investigation. and President Joe Biden signed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act into law this March. The bill's penalties include up to 30 years in prison. This motivating organizations like the Local Organizing Committee of Mississippi and the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants to push even further for an arrest. And the state does not have a statute of limitations for cases of murder or kidnapping. Live in Jackson, Royce and Gordon, 16 WAPT News.
A week ago, an unserved arrest warrant was found in the killing of Emmett Till in 1955. It was in the basement of a Mississippi courthouse. Today, a group of activists gathered in Raleigh, once again calling for the arrest of Carolyn Bryant Donham. That is the woman at the center of this nearly 70-year-old civil rights case. CBS 17's Brea Hollingsworth is live in Raleigh for us tonight with much more on what this group is asking for. Brea?
Yeah, that group showed up to 2 addresses where they believe Carolyn Bryant Donham lives, but they didn't have any luck in finding her. Donham has been a central figure in this case for years, which has found its way back into the national spotlight. A piece of history recently found in a Mississippi courthouse basement has put new attention on the death of teenager Emmett Till. That history, an unserved warrant for the arrest of Carolyn Bryant Donham.
She lied. Carolyn lied. She did what? She lied. She lied on Emmett Till. That's right. And her lies and her conspiring with her husband led to the gruesome death of Emmett Till, whose death was a major spark behind the entire civil rights movement.
Today, attorney Malik Shabazz, along with other activists, delivered eviction papers asking Donham to leave the state of North Carolina.
Open up the door.
Activists say they want her arrested, saying her accusations that Till whistled at her led to his eventual abduction and gruesome murder in Mississippi back in 1955.
Carolyn Bryant Donham is a fugitive from justice. Carolyn Bryant Donham has ran and hid and ducked from justice long enough.
We want to get this message to her that she has a warrant for her arrest, and we ain't gonna stop until she turns herself in.
Now, Attorney Shabazz says that he is planning to be in Mississippi this week to pressure the Leflore County District Attorney to enforce the warrant that was never served on Donham. In Raleigh, Brea Hollingsworth, CBS 17 News.
All right, Brea, thank you.
Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch says she has no plan to prosecute the woman whose accusation set off the lynching of teenager Emmett Till nearly 70 years ago. According to Fitch's chief of staff, quote, "There's no new evidence to open the case back up against Carolyn Bryant Donham." Now, in an unpublished memoir, Carolyn Bryant Donham says she neither identified him to the killers nor wanted him murdered. Donham says she was unaware of what would happen to the 14-year-old Till, who lived in Chicago and was visiting relatives in Mississippi when he was abducted, killed, and tossed in a river. Her then-husband, Roy Bryant, and his half-brother, J.W. Milam, were acquitted of murder charges, but later confessed in a magazine interview. To read more on the memoir, go to our website, WJTV.com.
Her autobiography should be taken with a good-sized shovel full of salt. The story she tells in it is that Roy, her husband, brought Emmett Till to her at 2:30 in the morning and wanted her to identify him, that she said it wasn't him 3 times. And then she said, Emmett Till flashed me a strange smile and said, yes, it was me. 2 big white men with guns came and dragged him out of his aunt and great uncle's house at 2 o'clock in the morning in the Mississippi Delta in 1955. I do not believe for 1 minute that he identified himself. She said something I thought was interesting, not in the manuscript, but to me. She said, you tell these stories until it seems like they're true.
To the surviving witness, Emmett Till's cousin and best friend Wheeler Parker, the account in the leaked manuscript hurts.
It's just sad. It's really sad. to see things that are happening. It's kind of sickening, you know.
In the NBC Chicago documentary, The Lost Story of Emmett Till, Wheeler Parker and fellow witness and cousin Simeon Wright both say nothing happened in the store. They admit Emmett whistled, but nothing more. Chris Benson, co-author of Wheeler Parker's upcoming book, A Few Days Full of Trouble, flat out calls Carolyn Bryant's version of events in the manuscript lies.
We believe she's continuing to tell lies. This is a person who we strongly believe had something to do with the abduction, but there's no way to establish that as a legal matter at this point.
Carolyn Bryant Dunham's husband, Roy Bryant, and his half-brother, J.W. Milam, were tried and acquitted for Emmett Till's murder back in 1955. 4 months later, Bryant and Milam admitted to killing Emmett Till in an article in Look magazine. We made attempts to reach Carolyn Bryant Dunham today by email and phone, but were not successful. So will this manuscript impact the legacy of Emmett Till?
For some people will buy into what she's saying, and some people won't. And when you read and go over everything, you see a lot of contradiction, a lot of fabrication, a lot of lies, and it's just incredible, mind-boggling.
I think people are going to be outraged. It really disturbs us that there can never be justice in this case. And it's offensive to us to read what this woman has to say now at the end of her life when she could have come clean.
Carolyn Bryant Dunham is 88 years old and living in North Carolina. The release of this manuscript comes just days after the discovery of an arrest warrant from 1955 that included Bryant Dunham's name, a fact that she acknowledges in the manuscript. She wasn't arrested then and has not since been charged, despite 2 FBI investigations of the Emmett Till case. Marion Brooks, NBC5 News.
And you just saw portions of them. For a deeper look at this case, you can watch 2 documentaries we produced: The Lost Story of Emmett Till, The Universal Child, as well as The Lost Story of Emmett Till, Trial in the Delta. They are on demand at NBC Chicago app, also on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.